Wait. All right. Yeah, okay, sorry, there's a delay that I'm getting used to here. But, so Give to the Max Day is a fundraising event, and as an organization, or a student organization, we are a nonprofit that is participating in this fundraising event. So, yeah, this live stream is so we can hopefully raise a good amount of money, and we already have, which is incredible, for our really incredible student organization here at University of Minnesota Duluth. Yeah, so let's talk a little more about what we do. Jacob, what do you do on the team? What is Bulldog Rocketry?
These are two different questions.
Those are two. Let's answer the what is Bulldog Rocketry one first.
We are an organization here at University of Minnesota Duluth, and we make things that go into the sky really fast. Some people call them rockets.
We'll leave it at that. They're rockets.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a whole lot of fun. Because there's just so many different things that can go into building these things, and we need people from all different aspects of like engineering, and just people from all different backgrounds, even outside of engineering. It's a really great organization to build rockets. That's the short of it.
Yeah, it's super exciting. So our main rocket that we focus on building every year, which you can kind of see behind us, that is our motor tube from last year, is to be able to compete in the IREC competition in New Mexico, or the Intercollegiate Rocket Engineering Competition. This is a super cool competition that has collegiate teams from literally all around the world. We got to meet some cool people from like New Zealand and Mexico and just everywhere, which is super cool. And the category that our team specifically competes in is the 30K SRAD, or basically a rocket that goes 30,000 feet in the air, and that we, as students, research and design ourselves. So everything, including the motor formula and just everything in the rocket, we both research and we build, which is really incredible. But as you can imagine, that does cost quite a lot of money. So that's why we're doing this big fundraising event. So I'm not sure how many people are watching right now, but if anybody is able to, the big reason why we're doing this is to spread the word that we're doing Give to the Max Day. And so, is there a way we can get like the Give to the Max Day link in the streams? So I think the link to Give to the Max Day will be put in the stream chats. So if you're able to spread that around and share the word, that would be great. But yeah, so if anybody has any questions, I'm currently monitoring the YouTube and the Instagram chats. So if anybody wants to like pop in and be like, hey, I have a specific question for you guys on your team, feel free to ask. But yeah, I should also note that already, even before the live stream started, we've already raised $810, which is huge. So a huge thanks to everybody that has donated so far. It really does make a huge difference for us and what our team is able to do.
Yeah, Anna, how do you donate?
How do you donate? So hopefully we're gonna get the link in the chats of the streams here soon. If not, what you do is you can go to, trying to think of what the easiest link would be to go to. What? One link at bulldog.rocketry.org. So one link .bulldog.rocketry.org is where you'll be able to find the Give to the Max Day page. So yeah, it's pretty fun. Sorry for the bit of, I should write that down.
I'm assuming chances are whatever link you clicked on to kind of get to the live stream, it's all kind of from the same place now?
For the most part, aside from like Instagram.
Instagram?
But if you're on Instagram, you can just go to like our Instagram page and we have that link in the bio. So yeah, that's another way to get to it.
And yeah, anything you can give at all is like huge.
Yeah, even if it's like 50 cents, it's better than nothing, you know?
Yeah, but like with $10, kind of if you're making order forms for even things that seem rather mundane, or like just like a little box to read some sensors. Well, you're including so many different things in order to put that thing together, because everything is built by us and designed by us and researched by us. We can't just buy one thing that does it. You know, we have to buy like the wires. We need to buy the solder to connect the wires together with. We need to buy the container it goes in, and then any other electronics we're using inside of it. And we kind of work in like $10 increments at a time. So even if you just can give like $10, like that's one thing off of an order form, and that's like huge. Or even like if one thing where it's like, I would like to get this component to make the system slightly better, but it's just not in the budget. Well, that could be another $10 difference of just $10 more, making what we do actually better. Like the money you give has like an actual direct impact in how well we're able to perform as a team. So it's huge.
Yeah, it really is huge. And I guess that kind of goes like to a question that I have printed out here, like what exactly like does this money go towards, right? And we've talked about a bit about competition already, and the fact that competition is like the big thing that we need money for, but there's so many different aspects about competition that we need money for, right? So not only like transportation and housing at competition, but also building our rocket, which there are so many different individual components that we need to make that happen. And like Jacob was mentioning, like a lot of like small things that aren't that much money, but there's so many of them that it really adds up.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, we haven't really introduced ourselves.
Oh yeah, that's so right. Yeah. Do you want to start off?
My name is Jacob. I am the safety deputy and hybrid development committee lead. So my jobs are kind of keep everyone safe and develop a special type of new rocket motor that uses like a hybrid rocket instead of a traditional solid, and we can talk more about that later. Yeah, and then I am Anna. I am the people and fundraising leads for the team this year, although I like to be involved in everything that I can. But those two leads specifically means that I am just kind of focused on making sure that people are happy on the team and that we have fun events and cool things that we're doing, and also setting up things like this.
Question in the chat.
Question in the chat.
What's the highest a rocket has flown that your team has launched?
I believe in recent years, it was 26,000 feet. So we didn't quite hit that mark.
20 some odd thousand feet.
Yeah, so the goal is to have 30,000 feet, but that is within the last 2 years. I know 26,000 is the most.
Yeah, and that's around, like, to give reference, because like 26,000 feet, like how far is that? Is that super high? Is that, I don't know. So a good reference point is kind of, that's a similar altitude to where commercial airliners will fly at. So if you've ever been in an airplane, that's kind of the same magnitude of altitude. Which when you compare like the things that we're launching to get up to that height versus like the size and scale and cost of like a commercial airliner, like it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and also these rockets that we build are huge. Like the one that we had for this year, like this last year's competition, was 15 feet and 1 inch tall, which like I'm 5'4", that's almost 3 of me, which is still crazy to think. And like I have a picture of me next to it, and it's just so funny to see that difference. This is not model rockets, right? We are an amateur rocketry team, but that does not mean what we do is small. So yeah.
Right.
And I will say, like, moving on to the future, a big goal for our team is to eventually be looking past just this competition that we're doing, which is super great experience for all of our members because you can do so much like connection building there, and it's just really cool. But in the future, we'd also like to work towards doing a 100K launch or 100,000 foot launch, which is a pretty big step, but that is a lot of other rocketry teams are also moving towards that goal or already have done that goal. So I think it's a very reasonable step for us. And we've also already put a lot of work into the design of making that happen. And the biggest restraint for us currently is the money to do that. So kind of goes back into this whole thing. What other cool things are our team doing right now, Jacob?
Oh.
Space cranes and level 1.
Oh yeah, space cranes at level 1. So someone off the screen just mentioned another really cool thing that we do is, so I'm not sure how to explain this succinctly, but essentially people on our team have the ability to be like sponsored by us to get what is called a level 1 certification through a rocketry company called Tripoli. Or it's not like a company, but it's
an organization.
It's an organization. And essentially what that means is that you fly a small powered rocket. They're not really small. They go like 1,000 feet in the air.
Yeah, they can go pretty darn high.
Yeah, so you fly one of those, and if like it lands and is technically in reflyable condition, then you get your level 1 certification, which is super cool. So that's a really great experience that all of our members have the ability to do, granted they have the time to. We supply the materials and the knowledge to be able to build those, which are super cool. Yeah, I did mine last year, and it was so fun. That's really what got me into rocketry.
Yeah, level ones are a super good experience. Being able to actually like from the ground up build your own rocket that like just you were the one that made. Because it's one thing to kind of on like a larger scale. A lot of the times you focus on like one specific aspect of the rocket, like you put a lot of work into making sure the nozzle's the right shape, or making sure that the fins are going to be strong enough, or working on the airframe or the electronics. But in order to do like certification flights, which there are 3 levels of certification, L1s are kind of one of the easier ones to get, and it's a good place to start out with. But then you can kind of have you have to build a slightly bigger, more powerful rocket with some slightly different features and different aspects of design. And level 3 is just even bigger than that. But once you start getting into the level 2, level 3 sized rockets and complexity rockets, you really need to have an understanding of the rocket as a whole, not just one piece. So.
Yeah, even for those level 1s too, it's just such a great way for members to get like knowledge about how rockets work. Because one thing that I really appreciate about our team, at least like from coming in last year, was that I didn't know a lot about the actual like construction or the engineering behind rockets. But just by talking to people and doing that process of making that L1 and helping with the competition rocket, I learned so much. And that is something that I do think is really cool about our team, is that even if somebody doesn't know anything about building a rocket, but as long as they have an interest to, we can teach them so much, which is really great. And a lot of just practical skills too. We do a lot of fun stuff. So.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that the team does kind of outside of the main rocket.
We have a question in the YouTube chat saying, Jacob, where's your level 1?
Where's my level 1? It's in a tree.
How about that story?
Went up 2,000 feet. Only went down about 1950.
We would have climbed the tree to get it if we could, but it was a very tall tree in like a forest.
It was of substantial size. You don't really think about how big trees are when they're off in the horizon, but once you get up close to the thing, it's like it's like that big of a tree. Just straight up, no branches.
Where we do these launches too, they need to be kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So these level 1s we can do in Minnesota in North Branch, at this like sod field. However, like for a competition rocket, there's a reason why we go to New Mexico. It's because we have to, right? So this is just kind of on like a farmland area-ish, and there's like, you know, on the highway you see like just trees. It's like that kind of tree.
Yeah. Sometimes through no fault of the rocket's design itself, your rocket might end up in a tree, and that's just a risk. It's kind of part. It's a risk that's part of the launch, part of the fun of it. But yeah, maybe it's still up there. It was a while ago, so it may have fallen down.
That was a while ago, yeah. I wonder how it's doing. I wonder if we went out there if we could find it.
Yeah, who knows? But last I checked, in a tree, to answer your question. But yeah, other than that, yeah, rocketry's, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with rocketry as an organization. We kind of have our structure split up. We have different departments, and within those different departments, we have different committees. And kind of two of the big engineering involved, like more technical committees. We have just the engineering committee, which works mostly on the rocket related stuff, like the actual competition rocket. I don't know if you can see it back here. We have some motor tubes.
Yeah, so this one that I'm touching right here, this is from 2 years ago. So not this last summer, but the summer before that. And as you can see, it did not softly land on the ground. In fact, it hit it at a very high speed, which caused, this is like aluminum, to do that, which is, you need to be going very fast in order for that to happen.
And then like this motor back here, that's the motor tube for our competition rocket. So engineering committee works on most of the stuff involving that rocket. And then we also have, engineering department. We also have the projects department. And the projects is what works on more of the novel, new sorts of things to kind of implement into larger rockets. So that's kind of where my committee falls, the hybrid committee. We're developing a new type of rocket motor. And there's a bunch of other like farm development. So we kind of do a lot of our work out at a farm off away from campus. Because you can imagine the school is not overly fond of the idea of mixing rocket fuel in just like a classroom. Yeah,
like what we do, we go about it in a safe way. However, we are still dealing with explosives, right? So there's a lot of things that we need to be careful about when we do those. And so we were given the space at a farm that UMD has property on to do the things we do, which is pretty cool.
And that allows us to work on the stuff that we are going to work on kind of far away from other people in a much more safe manner than just like trying to do it somewhere on campus where the facilities aren't necessarily meant, the on-campus facilities aren't necessarily meant for that sort of thing. And it also lets us do tests kind of remote and far away. When you're testing one of these rockets, you just want to be far away from anything. You want to be as far away as possible. And so that is kind of the space that allows us to do that. So one of our projects committees works on developing that space and getting us more facilities, more resources.
I will say, to interrupt you really quickly, we have gotten another donation since we started streaming. So thank you so much, Tammy F, for the $15 donation. That's really kind of you. It will be used towards some pretty exciting things.
How much was that?
It was 15. Or sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, that's
okay.
15.
Yeah.
That's like we can get some good stuff with that.
Yeah.
We can get ESP32 microcontrollers.
Some nerd stuff.
It's good stuff.
But yeah, so I guess just more about our team. So you've already gone through kind of like engineering and projects, right?
Engineering projects. Would you like to talk about more like tech side of things, and then like other like people, more less rocket specific departments?
Yeah, of course. So we have, of course, like the engineering and the projects, which is super exciting, and actually like doing engineering. but there's so much more that you need when having a student organization. And so we have a few other committees as well, or a few other departments, sorry. One of those being technology, which is actually how I started off on the team. I'm a computer science student, and so I just kind of wanted something fun to do to like get more experience with that. And that's what our technology department is partially for, right? It's to make super cool like tools for our team that our members code. So it's a great experience both for our members and for our team because we get to have things like Discord bots, if anybody's familiar with that, or like calculators and things like that. And it's really cool for both like sides involved. And then we also have operations. Operations is just basically a lot of the behind the scenes work, right? So that we have committees for launch event logistics, which plans competition. So getting us down to New Mexico is not an easy process. We're in Duluth, Minnesota. That is like a 27-hour drive that we need to do because we need to drive our rocket down there and our rocket fuel because I don't think an airline would like it very much if we brought it on a plane. So in order to get all our members down there and our rocket down there and make sure that competition goes smoothly, that's part of what operations does. I'm also part of operations to plan events like this and also just like fun events for our team, like movie nights and things like that. And that's also another thing is safety, which Jacob is actually in charge of course, because everything that we do is inherently, at least a little bit, not everything, but a lot of what we do does have some risk factor with it. We make sure that safety is one of our top priorities at all times. And so Jacob is largely responsible of that this year.
Yeah, and that's a big thing with safety too. Is there's a difference between a hazard and a risk.
Mm-hmm.
We work just an inherent part. An inherent part of engineering, and especially with like rocketry, is kind of the presence of certain hazards. You're likely to encounter things that are hazardous, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are risks. And that's kind of where safety comes in. Safety is kind of the practice of dealing with hazards and making sure that we are interacting with them in a way that has as low a risk as possible. And risk is more representative of, if you consider a hazard, say of a hazard of like,
Excuse me?
well, let's define what a hazard could be. I would say a good definition for a lot of things we work with is something that is like capable of causing damage or creating an impact, a negative impact. Something that can have a bad effect. That's pretty much the most simple term, or like a very wide encompassing term of like what a hazard is. So let's say like a candle. A candle burning on your tabletop, that's a hazard because you could catch something on fire and then you could burn down your whole apartment, right? Your apartment burning down from your candle, that's called the impact of the hazard. So if there is a hazard and the hazard causes something bad to happen, that something bad that happens is the impact. Now risk is kind of weighing, well, how likely is that to happen with how bad it is? Right? That's what a risk is. So the risk of lighting a candle on your table is not that high because the chances of the candle going and lighting your entire apartment on fire and you not noticing in time and fire suppression systems not working, it's really low. So that's why people all the time, even though the impact is terrible, if a candle burns down your apartment, that's a horrible, horrific thing. But we don't fret about it because it's not very risky because the likelihood is low.
Yeah.
And so the reason the likelihood is so low of things like that is because of like engineering safety. We put a lot of barriers in between like a hazard and it being able to cause some sort of impact. And it's the same thing with a candle sitting on the table as it is with a giant tube full of rocket fuel, right? They're both hazards, and they both can cause a tremendous impact. But because you implement the right like barriers and the right engineering barriers and administrative barriers, you are able to reduce the risk. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where our safety is. We do work with a lot of hazardous things, but it's really low risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's
nicely
like a little.
said. Yeah, so with that, just in case there are any new people on the live stream that we haven't been like introducing ourselves to, I'm Anna and this is Jacob. We're both members of Bulldog Rocketry, and this is our live stream for Give to the Max Day. Woo! So Give to the Max Day is super important because what we do requires money. And so this is really important for us to be able to continue do what we do. Yeah, and so if anybody has any questions, feel free to be putting them in the chats. I am currently only able to monitor the Instagram because I don't have my computer in front of me. However, if you have them other places, I'm sure they'll be relayed to me. So yeah, that being said, anything else you want to? I think we were just talking about safety.
Safety.
So that kind of covers operations. So now finance and marketing is our next departments. Marketing is also, I mean, both of these are this stream, right? So marketing is our social media. It is making like design and art things, which are super cool. So making like posters and the graphics for social media posts and merchandise. And we also have outreach. And outreach is actually a super cool thing that our team does. So part of being a student organization is that we want our members to be able to get a lot of good experiences. And with that comes volunteering. And we also just want to be able to give back to our community in Duluth. And so we do a lot of volunteering as a team, especially considering how many people we have. It's fairly easy to get a bunch of us going and do some good things for our community. So this year, I believe we've already gotten 270 some hours for outreach and volunteering, which is super cool. Yeah, so some of the things we've done in the past is we've helped lead a Boy Scout merit badge day. We have also gone to high school and middle school events to just kind of talk about who we are and try and engage younger students about science and rocketry. So yeah, we've also participated in school events like trash pickup and whatnot. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then fundraising, our last department finance is our last department. And that deals with the budget, and there's also fundraising involved in that. So reaching out to companies and also doing things like this.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a library.
Why do you feel like you're in a library?
Because everyone over here is being so quiet, and it makes it makes me feel like I'm talking in a library. You know? Mm-hmm. Come talk on the podcast.
Yeah. Anybody live stream? Jacob keeps calling it a podcast.
I'm gonna keep calling it a podcast because
Does it feel like a podcast to you?
It feels like there are internet video podcasts that are essentially the same.
I suppose, yeah.
If we recorded it, damn, it's that.
Come on in. All right. So who are you?
How's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty good.
My name is Nick Hartleap. I am heading the projects department right now. And yeah, I guess you guys were talking about level ones and doing
a little bit earlier.
Some from projects like that and the space grant, and that's part of the reason why we need such funding from you guys is so that we can do projects like that we can't typically do because the university just doesn't offer things like that to us.
Yeah.
So it's super fun for us to be able to join an organization like this and be able to do hands-on projects that we just don't get that type of experience from in the classroom. And it also opens up great opportunities for us, great job opportunities, great opportunities to learn. I feel like I've been able to learn probably more from Rocketry Club than I've been able to learn just even from my classes.
Yeah, I could definitely relate to that.
And that's like part of what brought me on and part of why I've enjoyed my time here so much, and a big reason why I came to the projects department is because I think, like you guys were talking about a little bit before, it's not all just about working on the rocket itself. There's a lot of other aspects to it, lots of other parts that go into it. I guess one of the committees I was most involved in that really drew me in here when I was younger was payload coming in.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about your experience on payload.
Yeah.
Because you headed that last year, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I've had a lot of fun on payload because I guess what's talked about a lot is without a payload, your rocket doesn't really have a purpose. I mean, our purpose is competition, to succeed in competition. So our payload's super open-ended. We just get a box and we can put whatever we want in it. So we get to do a lot of really cool experiments, get to put in a lot of creativity and have a lot of fun with it. But again, to do all that, we need funding from you guys and we need support from you guys. Otherwise, our organization is not going to be able to flourish and we can't do the fun projects that we're able to do.
Yeah, for sure. So what did we do for our payload last year? Do you want to explain that? Because I think it's really fascinating. And honestly, okay, so first of all, maybe explain exactly what a payload is.
Sure.
So we've talked, if you want to explain that, you can go ahead.
Yeah, well, our payload is, we get about a 3U cube, give or take, about 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter by 30 centimeter, and you can do essentially whatever project you want to put inside of it. So I did the payload the last 2 years. 2 years ago, I got the idea to do a little thermoelectric generator, but the drag chute on our parachute failed. It got totaled, didn't get any data from it. And then last year, me and essentially 2 other guys, we set up a fairly nice one. Took up the full 3U space, used little TEG panels to collect energy from heat differences, to try to collect energy from the motor giving off heat and from the air friction of the rocket going up, and then store it in batteries and use a little LoRa radio to transmit the data back to us. It was really important for us to transmit data back because we didn't want to lose everything again, have it smashed. And that's not like a required project for the rocket. That was just something that we decided on, we voted on, and that we put together. And having kind of side projects like that is a lot of fun.
No, it really lets you be creative and just kind of make something cool.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to explain what we're doing for our payload this year?
Yeah, this is going to be really challenging to do without sounding like a total nerd.
I mean, this is for rocketry. I think people expect that from us.
So the payload we're doing this year, it kind of all started out, the idea for it, is we were doing some tabling at our rocketry competition over the summer. So we went to competition, and one of the things that we do down there is we kind of just like set up a table, and people come walk by the table, and we have kind of like posters and information about our team. And they ask questions, and we talk. And it's not only rocketry teams tabling at these events, but there are also a lot of like career paths for rocketry, like actual aerospace companies that are launching full, real spacefaring rockets.
So there's like Virgin Galactic and like Relativity, which is super cool.
I can't remember the exact table, but we were kind of going around talking with some of these space companies. And I just asked one of them just kind of a question just to kind of have conversation going. I asked them what a challenge that they've encountered that on the surface seems quite mundane and seems like a simple thing, but when you actually try to like solve that problem, it is a lot more complicated. And the answer they gave was really interesting to me. It was about when you're in space, in outer space in zero gravity, it's really hard to know how much fuel you have in your tank, because like if you think of the traditional ways, well, how can you measure liquid? Well, you can kind of have like markings on the cylinder it's in and like see what the level is. Well, there's no gravity to pull it all down, so it's just all going to be all over. So you can't use that. Well, what's another way? Maybe if you're clever, you say, oh, well, we'll just weigh the liquid. We'll weigh the fuel. No gravity. It's weightless. So you can't do that either. So it's really challenging to figure out well, how much fuel do I have in my tank? You can't just have like a little fuel gauge that tells you really easily. And that's one of the challenges that they were talking about. And this kind of got me thinking of like, well, how would I want to try to approach that problem? And I had remembered hearing from somewhere, I can't recall what, or even if it was correct, something about being able to use like capacitance to measure the amount of fluid in something.
Do you want to explain what capacitance is?
It's a electrical property, kind of like an ability for something to store charge. It's kind of weird and hard to explain, but we'll just go to it's a property of a material. It's like an electrical property of a material. Doesn't matter. It's measurable with electronic devices. That's kind of the important bit. But I'd heard somewhere that that's something that you can do. And so I looked into it further. And then I found this other type of technology, kind of unrelated to capacitance, but that uses it. It's called tomography. And it's a way of making an image of something, like a 2D image, by taking like a bunch of like readings that are dependent on a property of the material. So it's really hard to explain. But picture you have like a hexagon, and each side of the hexagon is like a sensor you can read. That you can pick two hexagons, and you can figure out some property of whatever's in between them. Almost like if you were like shining a laser from one side to the other side, and you were like, you knew how much light you were sending on one end, and the other end was receiving it. And if there was something in the way, you could tell that that was there. So I'm going to use this laser analogy. So yeah, picture you have a bunch of lasers. Yeah, you got 6 lasers in a circle, and next to each laser, there's also a receiver that can like see how much light is hitting it. If you take one of the lasers and you point it at the receiver that's like over here on this side and see that, and then you point it at this receiver and then this one and then this one and this one and this one, you kind of are connecting a line between all of them. If you see that like in the middle section, the receivers aren't picking up the light, you know that there's something in between them in the middle. Now, if you kind of go around the circle, alternating which things are receiving or are like looking for that light and which ones are sending it out, you kind of like go in this like loop of like, so this one is a laser and everything else is a receiver, and it points at all of them. Then you go to this next one is a laser, everything else is a receiver. It's kind of like that, but instead of lasers, it's little electric plates, and instead of reading light, you're reading capacitance. But you can make an image out of that eventually. That's kind of what tomography is like, from knowing like different regions, just like with these lines that you're drawing between different things, you can eventually make like a map of what's happening in like a 2D, like top-down kind of view.
Yeah. So like tying that back into like how are you going to use this to measure how much fuel is in something?
Well, what you can do is if you have a container filled with liquid that's floating around all over the place, well, you can theoretically use this technology to make kind of like an image of the fluid that's floating around. And you can kind of figure out from that image how much there is. Those details are too nerdy. But there's also another variant of this tomography. So that's like 2D tomography is if you're doing that. Well, now say you had this in 2 layers, and now the lasers can point like at each other. You can make a 3D image, and that's kind of the idea, is we would have a 3D image that could map out not only how much fluid there is, but where it is, where it's floating. Oh, and that's the other thing. So this that's the idea. We're trying to measure the amount of fluid using capacitance. I've talked about this already for too long, but I won't go into a little detail. It's really cool. It's really nerdy. There's a lot that is like about it that's cool. It's kind of like an MRI scan or something like that. Like from the outside of a thing. So say if this mug, if I wanted to know what was in the mug, I could put these panels all around the outside of the mug without putting anything in it, without interacting with whatever's in the mug at all. You can figure out what's in the mug, what shape it is, what material it's made out of, and you can have an image of it. And I just think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like without having a camera, you can like still see things.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to view the world that aren't just like sight.
Another thing that's just so exciting about this too is that it does bring back that original, like this is an issue that real world people that we have talked to have, right? And so to be able to kind of use our payload to explore solutions for that is super worthwhile in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it kind of, I think will make it stand out.
And it's super cool that the idea utilizes the fact that we're in a rocket. So there are a lot of like payloads that you can see that are kind of just, and I'm not discrediting them at all, but it's kind of hard to figure out ideas for a payload, especially when like there's just so many things you can do with it.
Yeah.
But and it's hard to figure out what you want to do. But what I really wanted was to utilize the fact that we're in a rocket. So instead of just having like something in a rocket and see what happens when it goes into space, which is like, that's kind of the easy thing of like, well, let's like maybe put some sensors in and see what happens. But I was never satisfied with sort of those sorts of payloads just because, well, chances are some weather balloon has gone up and got the data that you're trying to get already, you know? Or like, there's a video online of someone sending garlic bread to space, or like,
yeah,
like,
it doesn't feel new.
There's a lot of ideas like that of just, well, let's just put something in it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you have something to comment on that?
I do feel like the generating those ideas can certainly be part of the hardest part.
Yeah.
Just finding things that haven't been done already, finding things that you can't just order online.
That
and
are,
like
that are
Amazon.
unique, that there aren't videos of someone doing. Like you could put garlic bread in the rocket, and that is a payload, and you could say, well, the scientific mission is to find out what happens to garlic bread when it goes to 30,000 feet. But it doesn't really, like, the information's not necessarily super useful.
Yeah.
And kind of other than the fact that you're just seeing what happens when it goes up, you're not really utilizing the fact that it's in a rocket. Right?
And then once we do find those good ideas, the actual implementation of them is what truly benefits us as a group. I mean, the thing, building a thermoelectric generator, setting up what you were talking about, Jacob. I can't repeat your whole 5-minute speech. But these things, I would never know that they even really existed unless I joined Rocketry Club and actually had the opportunity to work on these projects and to get some hands-on experience. And part of that I feel like has been incredibly beneficial to me as a student, and I know it has been to many other people as well. But again, we can't do these projects without funding and without supporters like you guys. You guys are definitely the biggest factor to it, so that we can continue to do such fun projects and
100%.
to learn and to gain in these experiences.
Yeah, and what's really exciting about our payload too is that like because we're just coming up with this idea and making it, like there hasn't already been a lot of like, there probably is research out there, but our team specifically hasn't done the research on it yet, right? Because we're doing a new thing every year, or like pretty much every year. Like it really encourages our members to do a lot of very like critical thinking and just a lot of research into making something new, which that process can be so rewarding.
Sure.
Sorry,
and
I'm
I
watching
suppose
charades right now.
We're letting more people to the
And I guess something going on right now that's less rocketry associated, but something that farm development's working on right now that's very much fundraising orientated is that we recently got, or not recently, but we had gotten a very generous donation of a lot of furniture right now that we're working on selling off in order to raise money for such projects and for our organization.
Yeah.
We have few tables, some step stools, I believe like a chair or two,
Yeah.
a really nice marble table, and such. So if anyone's interested in purchasing furniture for a good cause, please reach out.
Yeah.
Be happy to send you pictures and dimensions and materials of what we have. Price
Turns into an
negotiable.
infomercial.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got some new people in here, and I don't want this to just become people come in and then just sit on their computers trying to be quiet. So get in here.
Yeah, also,
I
can
just,
someone
like-
bring me my computer? It's the, HP one.
Yeah.
Lovely. Sweet. I'd love to be able to read chats if people are coming in.
Yeah,
So,
well,
if
I think
you're
we,
It's like an action shot and everything.
Yeah, look at that.
I suppose we did just talk about projects for a while, so if you want to hop in and hear Andrew and explain kind of what the engineering
first of all,
side's doing
who
right
are
now.
you? Let's do a little bit of a recap
Fantastic.
of who we are, what this is for, kind of what we're doing here. So, who we are. So, I'm Anna, this is Jacob.
And I'm Andrew. I am in my third year of rocketry now, and I am the chief engineer on the team, which essentially means that I am responsible for guiding everyone towards the construction of our competition rocket at IREC in New Mexico. Have you talked about what IREC is at all?
Previously, yeah, but that was like pretty early on in the stream. So if you want to
Okay.
like reiterate what that's about. So IREC is an intercollegiate rocket engineering competition that happens every year in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And what's really cool about it is like there are literally like over 150 teams that are come from all around the world. So like we talked about with the team from New Zealand this last year. And it's just a really, really cool experience.
Yeah, and so every year for the last, 6 years now, 7 years now, we've been going down to New Mexico and flying our rocket, which is usually around 15 feet tall, weighs about 140 pounds with fuel, and then flies to 30,000 feet in the air, which is about your airline flight. And that's our target goal, is to hit that 30,000 foot number, and we are scored on the design of our rocket, how well we justify our engineering decisions, the quality of the actual rocket we end up building, and essentially, if our rocket was recoverable, we have parachutes on our rocket, and we deploy those when it's at the top of its arc, and then another parachute near the ground, and so we can refly the rocket. Theoretically, if we have another motor that we can put into it, and so we get to compete with all of these teams in different categories. We specifically compete in what's called SRAD, Student Researched and Designed, and that is a descriptor pertaining to the motor of our rocket, whereas other teams will buy their motors from a supplier. We actually mix our motors in-house, which is very cool and also very expensive due to the chemicals that we put into it, primarily ammonium perchlorate.
Yeah, and because of that too, part of what's required for being an SRAD team is that we need to do these motor tests. So we need to have at least like one successful motor test that shows that our motor is safe to fly. And so because of that, we need to make 2 motors. So we need to have one for the motor test and one for competition. And that's if everything goes perfectly right. So yeah, it does add up. Sorry?
I have a video of the motor test if you want.
Oh,
do
yeah,
you want
let's
to
do
put?
that.
Yeah. So there's a video of the motor test that are awesome. Oh, and also we've gotten quite a few donations.
Oh, it looks, did we just
Yeah,
get one?
it
I
looks like
saw
we
one.
did. I'm not sure. So Levon
Grandma! Hey,
thank
Mima!
you so
Oh
much
my
for
gosh!
the donation. That is so generous of you.
Oh,
We
that's
really
so
do
awesome.
appreciate it. With that donation, we are up to $1,125 raised. We have made it over the 1,000 mark.
Already.
Everybody that's donated, we appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
This
so much,
really
everybody.
goes towards something like everything that we do here is student run.
All right, here's the motor test fire, I believe. we're
Yeah,
about to
so
show.
with that. All right, so welcome. So we're back. That was what you just saw was our motor test, which is pretty dang cool. We do those every year because we need to in order to be able to fly our rocket to make sure that the motor we use is safe.
Yep, it's required for competition. It's also great to verify that our motor works as we expect it to, because if there are problems, for example, we want to make sure that that happens when we're not in competition and we're not being judged and we're not risking our entire rocket for a small problem in the motor tube, which is, it definitely can happen.
Yeah. So do you want to introduce yourself? I don't think you have introduced you yet.
Yes.
You're like the most important person right now.
Yeah. So I'm Gwen Lau. I'm the CEO of Bulldog Rocketry right now. What I do on this team is I manage all of the 6 departments that we have: engineering, projects, operations, marketing, finance, and technology. So I make sure that everything goes smoothly, that we have everything on track to get things completed and have a successful rocket, successful team in the end.
Yeah, so that was again our motor test, and just for context, that's producing about, I think, 500 pounds of thrust at any given time, which is a lot of force. That has to lift up our whole rocket off the launch pad. So it is a big motor. I think there were some pictures of people standing next to it, but again, very large scale material, and all of that's filled with rocket fuel.
Yeah, and we make sure we harped on this a bit earlier, but we really do make sure safety is like our top priority when we do these kinds of tests, because there's a lot that could go wrong, right? But through our safety measures, we make sure that it is like as low risk as we can possibly make it, and make sure that people are a safe distance away. We call the fire department beforehand to let them know what's happening and like the worst case scenario.
Yeah, we've got fire extinguishers on hand. We know the procedures for if something goes wrong. So.
But so far, very little has gone like super wrong at these tests, right?
Every time our rocket has failed, or something has gone wrong that we didn't expect, the manner that the rocket failed was as safe as it possibly can be. So historically, that's our nozzle coming and popping out of the rocket, basically, so it doesn't, and nothing explodes outwards. It just is like popping a cork off, and that's because of how we design the rocket. We design it to be safe, so if it fails safely.
Yeah, do you want to talk a bit more about our rocket, or should we get into some personal like testimonials and like what we like on the team?
If you get me started talking about our rocket, we'll be here all night. So let's get into
let's
some
do a
personal
very like
information.
brief like what is our rocket? Like
What is our rocket? All right.
Like the different components of it, you know?
So our rocket, going from the top of the rocket downwards, we start off at the nose cone. That's a pointy end that helps us cut through the air so that our rocket is efficient when it's going up. It reduces the drag force on our rocket. Basically, same thing as driving a car. The faster you go, the more fuel you expend. So we want to be able to cut through that air as good as possible. We use a 3/4 power series is what it's called. It's basically a specific shape that helps optimize the nozzle through its flight. Next up, we have a body tube, which is essentially a big hollow tube that we can put stuff in. That includes our payload, which I don't know if we talked about it all yet.
Oh, we did a little bit earlier.
Essentially, that rocket's no good unless it puts something somewhere. That's kind of the point. So we have a payload in the top of our rocket that is in a specific shape. That's called a CubeSat framework, and that's so that NASA can launch those satellites on rockets. And that's another part of our competition, and how we're scored is that we have that payload on board. Next up, we have a coupler, which is basically a tube that allows the body tube to separate from the rest of the structure of the rocket so that our parachutes can deploy, which is another component that we have in those body tubes.
Yeah, the couplers like hold the tubes together. So.
Yeah. And then what about the materials of these tubes in the nose cone? What are we using to build this thing?
So the nose cone and I didn't get to it yet, but the eBay are made of fiberglass, and that is due to it being lighter than metal, but also able to let radio signals travel through it so that our electronics, when we use them, they work. We're able to communicate with the rocket and see where it is and gather data from it on the way up.
Yeah, it's like astronauts, that's a really cool thing that we can do, is actually put that together, because fiberglass is like sheets of like like woven glass kind of.
Pretty much, yeah.
That you layer with epoxy, almost like paper mache, but with glass. And we have a mold for that. So that's a really huge thing that we do in manufacturing, which is really cool and not an experience that people would really be able to get if they weren't a part of our team.
Yep, shout out to Stratasys for donating our mold for
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
They designed and printed it for us, and we're very grateful for that.
So I've talked about fiberglass. Next up, the body tubes are made of carbon fiber, which is very similar to fiberglass in the fact that you basically apply it in layers with epoxy to cure it into a shape. It is lighter than fiberglass by weight, so that's why we use it for the main structural components of the rocket. And then we also have numerous metal components. Currently our couplers are made out of metal. They don't have to be. We have historically used them because they're very strong and they have to hold different sections of the rocket together. We also have, again, the eBay, which is made of fiberglass because it houses electronics. And our motor tube is also made out of aluminum. I think you can,
They're a couple here.
some looking better than others. Some surviving a crash in the desert, and others surviving a small burn through in Duluth. And so that's made of metal because, specifically aluminum, because if something again does go wrong, the aluminum will generally not explode. It will just bend outwards or burn a hole through the side. As well as it's just very strong and it needs to hold a lot of pressure when the fuel's burning. To
So
survive.
that way, like worst case scenario, you won't really be dealing with much shrapnel from the aluminum.
Correct.
Or aluminum. It'll,
Again, being very safe in everything that we do, because it is rocket science and things happen. It's hard for a reason, and so
You talking about safety?
we are talking
We
about
are
safety.
talking about
Hey,
safety.
Jacob, have
and
you
I wanted
mentioned what your role
we
is?
got another very generous donation from Kristen Murphy. Thank you so much. That will really help us to be able to continue doing what we do.
Anna,
All right. Yes.
We just got pizza here. Do
That's
you want to
amazing.
figure out how that's gonna work?
Yes. I am not entirely sure. I think people who are not on the stream right now can get pizza, and then we can like cycle through people that are on the stream. So they can get pizza when they're not on it.
Yeah, I feel like we can fit more people in here.
Yeah,
For sure. Does
like,
anybody else wanna hop in?
I usually don't bite. Yeah, Dagan, you have to live next to me all the time.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna move the pizza.
All right, so just a reminder, if you have any questions and you're watching the stream, put it in the chat. We'll answer them. And also, this is for Give to the Max Day. So if you are able to donate, we really appreciate it. We've already raised quite a lot of money, which is incredible. We've raised $1,535. And that is really going to help us to be able to go to competition like we do every year in New Mexico and build a rocket.
Yes, thank you so much to
thank you
everyone who's donated to
everyone.
us.
Yes. That's what it's all about. All right, so I think that's enough technical guru, big words,
If
lots
anybody
of...
wants to know more about that stuff, ask it. We'll go back into it.
Yes.
Please ask us questions in the live stream. We would love to answer them.
But
Yeah.
I do think it would be a good idea to talk more about the people side of things with rocketry.
For sure.
Like, why do we do what we do? Like, rockets are cool, right? But what brought you guys to Bulldog Rocketry? Dagan, we'll start with you. Have you introduced yourself?
Yeah.
No.
That's a
Hi,
lovely question, Andrew.
I'm Dagan. I joined the team last year as a part of the technology department. I'm a CS major like Anna. So last year I joined and started working on some of the technology projects. My first experience with actual code outside of class, and we went at a lot faster pace than class, so I got to catch up or get ahead a little bit and learn things that I wasn't seeing in my classes at that point yet.
Yeah, and also it's just a great experience to be able to work with like different languages that we're not using in class, and just really have a more practical use for code, because I feel like in class we do a lot of like more conceptual things, right? To learn concepts, which is great, but having a way to apply them is super useful.
Yeah, definitely the hands-on aspect of things with that.
Yeah.
And then shortly afterward, after joining the technology department, I learned about some of the other parts of the team, especially the hybrid committee that Ludwig
Yeah.
was leading, or
Yeah,
Andrew was
now
leading at
led
the time.
by Jacob.
I'm setting up a people trap so that if someone wants pizza,
People on the
they
street.
here on Frank.
Wow.
See,
So it feels less dead in here.
No, don't worry. There are people present in the background. Engineers apparently are just a little bit shy. So that's why the two CS majors are here.
Apparently.
Some of them, at least. Not everyone.
Yeah.
How many donations can we get if Jacob and I race to eat pizza?
That's a good question. I guess we could ask the audience. Oh, hey, Parker! Oh my gosh, Parker Schultz just donated. Hey,
Thanks,
Parker!
Yeah, thank you so much, Parker.
Do we want to talk about? So Parker was a part of our team just last year for parts of the year.
Yeah. Helped a lot with the business side.
Yeah, he was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, getting into that, us engineers, with all of this extracurricular stuff, engineering classes, not a lot of them teach you how to administrate or how to deal with money and deal with organizing people. And so rocketry is a really good way for us as engineering students to learn how to work together with other people instead of just on our own homework. It's basically like a voluntary group project. The group projects in school suck. I feel like
we're doing it on purpose.
But we're
And I
doing it
will
on
say,
purpose.
yeah, the leadership experience I've gained just by being a part of this team has been like the most I've gotten anywhere in my life. Like it's genuinely been such like a helpful experience to be able to just get that for leadership. That I'm sure I'll carry with me, like with whatever I end up doing, right? So
Rocketry has been a great way for us to not only learn more of all of this technical stuff of how do you put together a rocket, all of these different materials, but also, how to work with other engineers and non-engineers. So that's been a very exciting and thrilling and difficult, in a good way, part of the experience.
Yeah, so we have members of our team that are from over 10 different majors. We're not just engineers. We have lots of marketing, lots of graphics design, of course, lots of computer science, which is awesome. That's been growing so much more in the past couple of years. But it takes everyone to build a rocket. We can't just have a group of engineers because, well, we could, but.
We could, but to achieve all of our long-term goals, right, it's not as effective. And we want to be an inclusive environment. We want to get knowledge from all of these different areas and cultivate them, sort of to simulate a workplace, but also we've learned through the years that you can simulate that workplace, but you have to be careful with how you go about it. You don't want it to be all of a job.
Yes.
Again, it is a voluntary organization, right? So it's finding this balance between operating as a club and operating as this professional organization. And so I think this year we're learning to strike balance a lot better.
We've been focusing a lot on making sure that this environment is something that we all can thrive in. When we're not getting paid, we have to have a purpose towards what we're going at. And all of us are coming together on this team for a reason, right?
Yeah.
We have our own personal passions for why we do this. We have very little free time as college students anyways, but we put it towards this amazing goal of putting together a rocket and launching it. And so making sure that each person is getting at that goal for why we are here is super important for making sure that people enjoy their time. So.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of that, we talk about all of this one big rocket that we build, but that's not the only stuff we do with rockets, right? We have other rockets that we launch. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was discussed previously when I was listening earlier, but the level 1 rockets is what I did my freshman year last year as well. So that was another one of my experiences early on in the year. Was in the fall. I was able to build and construct. It's a high power rocket because it's above it has a certain amount of energy in its motor. So it goes to 2,000 feet, and it's made out of like mostly cardboard and some 3D printed parts, some balsa wood, and put together, glued together for the most part. And that was a rocket launch I got to go to last fall and successfully recover my rocket that I had launched. And that was a really good first experience in terms of getting hands-on experience and also learning some of the fundamentals of like how rockets work. Starting from like making sure that you're the center of pressure, which is where most of the drag forces are experienced on the rocket, and the center of gravity, which is where the rocket's getting pulled down by gravity, where those forces balance out to make a balanced rocket that's stable in flight. There are some other nuances and things that you learn through that experience.
Yeah, so in the past couple of years, we've grown this program through our club where we encourage students to pursue those level 1 certifications at EEE Minnesota. And we have gotten about 20 members at the moment, but we have a launch this weekend where we're hopefully going to get a lot more level 1 certifications. For some of our new members, we've been working all throughout this fall to get our new members on our team into getting those certifications, and they've learned so much. I think a lot of them had a really good experience building their level 1s, learning about how rockets work so that we can move on to our bigger rocket and have that deep understanding already from doing it personally.
Yeah, I remember that was like probably just one of my favorite things we did last year too. It was so fun. I got to be able to launch level 1. And it's so fun and just great team bonding to be able to go down to North Branch and launch these small rockets and just have that experience of launching a rocket is just, it's kind of indescribable to me. It's just, it's so exciting and nerve-wracking and it's terrifying, but it's
because your rocket's sitting on that launch stand and you're just waiting and you're like, you don't know what's gonna happen.
It's almost akin to, I found, people have heard of like gold fever, where if you're painting for gold and you find a nugget, it's like, oh my gosh, I need more of this. That's kind of what rockets are, right? There's this risk involved, there's this chance of it could go great, it could go terrible. I put all of my time into this one moment where things are gonna either work or not work, and so.
And it's terrifying because it doesn't all happen at once too, right? Because it launches, so
and then you're like, it's still going.
And then it still goes, and then you need to wait until the parachutes come out. So the parachutes talk about this is what happens.
It's not done until it hits the ground.
Yeah, so there are multiple parts that.
Easy to see. I don't know if we want to pull it up to show
I mean,
quite the destruction that happened here.
But it's just, if one part in all of this doesn't go right, it can go very wrong.
Yeah, so this is part of a motor tube from, what was it, IREC 2022.
I think we might need to move this down further because of where the frame is at.
But
Yep, so IREC 2022, we went down to New Mexico and we launched our rocket. This is just a piece that was left after the rocket was launched. But yeah, as you can see, it was not a successful recovery. It did not come back in one piece.
I would argue partially successful recovery because we did carry that all the way 2.5 miles.
And we got some data.
And we got data.
Yeah,
data
we got
was
to find
collected.
out how far we was landing.
I don't know if you can see behind what we've got. This box here is the Kate Multitronics, which is our.
I don't think that's in frame, but
Oh, it's not in frame. Shoot.
Here,
Okay.
I can hold it.
Okay, there we go.
Oh,
it's gonna cover some.
we meet again.
There we go. Okay, so
Alright, so I'll try to tip it up, and then I'm looking at the.
I was gonna take them out just
Oh
to
yeah,
show
that would be smart.
parts of it, so we can just. Here we go.
See, engineers have great.
So here's
engineering
the
skills,
here's
but
the
common
transmitter
sense.
right here. So this transmitter here connects to the piece that's in the rocket in the nose cone. What? Okay, nothing wrong. Okay. And this is what collects the data. So when that rocket that hit the ground really fast, you heard.
So actually, we might be able to turn it on and actually
Is that
hear
good?
it talking through what that launch was,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, so
I'm
there's
gonna turn it on.
there's part of this telemetry device that sits in the nose cone of the rocket, and that's our GPS to tell us where it is in its flight and where it is once it's landed. So we have this handheld device that we use once the rocket's landed to figure out where the rocket is, because it's nowhere near where we launch it. And we have to find it and take it out of the desert in New Mexico so it's not there forever.
Yeah, because when a rocket goes 30,000 feet in the air, it's not going to come back directly where we launched it at, which is a good thing, because then it would be launched on top of like Earth landing on top of people. But so
so
it's
we
important
use-
that we were able to find it. After.
Yeah, taking this back was a huge reward. But yeah, we use a Kate Multitronics Pro, which is one of the fancier ones, and it actually gives us live readouts telling us what altitude it's at each point in its flight. So it's kind of fun because when we're all nervous and we're sitting there watching our rocket go up in the air, we have something telling us where it is, which it feels really good to have that comfort of we know where our rocket is right now.
Yeah. And I would like to say we just got another $2,000 donation. Thank you so much That really is incredible. That brings up our total.
200. Just
Yeah.
make the clerk.
Just $200, yeah.
But,
You said
oh wait.
Did I say 2,000? I'm so sorry. It was 200. My brain.
But, yeah.
That time in the semester where I have like midterms going on. So
Can we read
Yes,
the
thank you so
messages
much
as
for the
well?
donation.
I'm not sure. We don't. This might not show if they're not.
Do we have the message on your screen at all?
I just want to make sure that we're not reading anonymous names because I'm not sure if we can tell from this screen that I'm currently on.
Oh, okay.
But we do really, really appreciate all the donations we're getting.
All right, I think I found the setting. If I'm not mistaken, this will talk through the last launch, the one that ended by hitting the ground, and we can kind of walk through it. Hopefully, it'll be loud enough for people to hear.
Launch detected.
All right, so that means
500 feet.
Are we monitoring the audio?
2,000 feet. 4,000 feet. 10,000.
going up,
15,000.
still going up,
18,000 feet. 20,000.
How long is your arm, Glenn? You need to stand up.
24,000.
He's out of frame.
It's still going. It's still going.
5,000.
It's still going.
26,000.
All right, we're getting close. We're getting close.
The anticipation.
Max altitude 26,000.
All right, this is about the time we're going to hear things go wrong.
Max velocity Mach 1.33.
So, up to this point, everything's
25,000
normal.
Feet, descending at 400 feet per second.
That's bad.
West, southwest at 1.9 miles. Warning, warning, descent rate is too fast. At this rate, impact expected in 22 seconds. 14,000 feet, descending at 830 feet per second. West, southwest at 2.4 miles. 6,000 feet, 4,000, 3,000, 1,000 west, south.
That was about 2,000 feet in a second.
2.6
Yeah.
miles.
Yeah, that was really scary to hear.
Yeah. So just like imagining like being, in the
The
middle of the
impact
desert
velocity was
and like hoping that your
110
rocket has
feet
its
per
perfect flight
second.
and that happens.
Impact
so.
was 2.5
We got some new
miles
people
west,
coming in
southwest
here. Does
at a
anyone
bearing
else
of
wanna, like,
255
rotate
degrees.
through?
Yeah,
we can rotate.
Yeah, I
My
might
report.
rotate through because I've been on here since the start and I would like to.
Also,
but
the
it's been
Ludwigs,
great.
you sent a message with the donation you gave. I want to read what that is.
Yeah,
Can someone
also,
tell me
yeah,
what that
for,
is?
For future,
Well,
not all of
not-
those
yep.
are like they might be anonymous, so don't say
Yep.
the names necessarily.
I do recognize the Ludwigs though. So I want to give them a shout out. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for watching the live stream. I know this is always fun for you to hear me talk rocket stuff, even if the technical jargon gets a little bit complicated.
Can we see what the message
Yeah, I do want to say we wish you lots of LU
I
luck.
assume that's luck.
Yeah, we can say luck.
Thank you for the luck, Ludwigs.
Uh,
We
yeah,
are very
that's
thankful for
great.
it.
If you want to text me what that message says, I can read all of it out. The screen I have doesn't tell me all of it. Yeah.
Great. Do we want to introduce the new
All right.
members to our panel here? And Jacob probably again. as
Again?
well? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm I'm gonna be around in the background a good bit. I'm Jacob. I'm a hybrid and safety guy, so I do like safety and hybrid.
Have you talked about what hybrid is yet?
Not
We
yet.
can do that
I
later.
feel
Yeah,
like there
yeah.
will be
Okay, later.
time.
Yeah, yes, later.
Okay. Hi. Where do I look? Over there. Okay.
There's that. Or you can do like candid, like just a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, well, I'm Neva. I don't really know what I'm doing here yet, but like that's the fun of it. I like it. I'm figuring it out. It's cool. It's
Yeah.
neat. I didn't know anything about rockets before this, but now I know some more. Yeah.
Yeah, Eva's one of our lovely new members, and we're very happy to have her.
Yeah. it's my
Are you
first
launching your
year.
level 1 soon?
I would do it this weekend, but the fin is currently broken.
Oh, that's right,
And I
yes.
don't know if there's an opportunity to fix that. I
Yeah.
would love to if I could. Dwayne the Rocket Johnson needs to fly, but like, I don't know when that opportunity is going to present itself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we'll fix them up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cute.
So, how has your experience been with rocketry as a whole?
It's been
what,
fun.
What got you into it?
What got me into it? That was I'm not sure, has Jenna been on here?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, well,
Not yet.
okay. Well, one of my friends who shares the name of someone who's been like more prominent in here heard about it, and she was like, "Hey," and dragged me and my friend Lydia, she's over there. She won't come on screen, but she dragged us here, and we were like, "Okay, we'll stick around." And it's been, I don't know, it's just been fun. I stuck around because people were nice and it seemed cool and relevant to physics. And it's like my major, so we party rock. We have a good time.
I mean, yeah, that's the goal. Learning more about rockets, but also like again, we're a club, we're a team. And the community pizza, which I might.
That's why we're here.
Pizza.
Pizza. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not why you're here.
Yeah, clearly not.
No.
Whether it's because I spend so much time here and not other places, or just because genuinely the people are so cool and intelligent and interesting who do join rocketry, a majority of my friends have come from this group in college.
I think we're just that cool.
Oh yeah. So yeah, rocketry has brought me closer to so many people who I would not have met otherwise, and we can both have fun through rocketry things, but also I have so many friends who I'll go out and do other things with. Random hikes, we go places. We meet up in study lounges and talk homework. It's just
so fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you put it like that.
Fabulous weekend, dude. We're gonna go to hike, we're gonna sit and talk homework for hours.
But yeah, I've met so many people through rocketry, and it's been such a cool experience.
Yeah, IREC is a big part of that too. Being able to travel down to competition is a big part of the experience for rocketry. As we mentioned earlier, the job connections that you can make down there are really important, but also just the bonding experience of traveling the 27 hours in a car with the same group of people all the way to New Mexico. Oh, we got a question?
We have a question.
Y'all looking forward to a Starship launch on Saturday? What
Starship on Saturday?
Wait, what happened to Friday? I thought they was launching Friday.
Wait.
Now I'm just,
Delays are typical.
that is true.
We're fine with delay. What? Oh, do you have more comment there, Jacob?
Wait, yeah.
No, it's like, this is aerospace. You know, if it's happening on Monday, it's gonna be on Friday. Like, that's kind of.
It is the business. But yeah, Matt, I am curious what the story is with Starship. Why did it move to Saturday?
Starships are meant to fly.
That is true.
So they did.
Speaking of which, I don't know if everyone will know what Starship is.
Oh yeah, that's
who's
a good
watching
point.
this.
Yeah.
So maybe
Let's
we can
explain
talk
it,
about
Andrew.
that. So basically,
Please, actually.
so those who are aware of the moon landings might know of the Saturn V rocket. That's the rocket that brought America to the moon, brought the moon lander there. All of the Apollo program, very famous. The Starship is basically the next futuristic version of that, but completely reusable. So it is taller than the Saturn V, it is more powerful than the Saturn V, and both the bottom of the rocket and the top half of the rocket are able to be landed and then reused. Bad grid fin actuator.
That's why I was delayed. Yep.
Okay.
Those darn grid fins.
So they got the flight waiver then.
Grid fin actuators.
Yeah, the FAA cleared them for launch. I think yesterday I got the news of that. But anyway, it's basically this super tall stainless steel looking thing. It's got some flappy wings on the top that it uses, and then the top half lands by like belly flopping. You can look it up on YouTube. What the top half does. There's been one test flight of it before. The goal was to reach orbit. It did not do that. However, the engineers building it were kind of aware of that. It was mostly just to see how the engines performed under different conditions, to gather data to figure out exactly how different things work so that they can go back and make tweaks to it and try it again. And so hopefully this time it will be able to get to a point where it can separate and maybe get to orbit, maybe not, maybe successfully re-enter the atmosphere, maybe not. Lots of question marks, but it's really cool to see this development of this massive rocket. Like, there's not a building taller in Duluth than what the rocket is. I know that for sure.
Yeah, it's one of the fastest buildings you'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big rocket.
And it's built by
Yeah.
SpaceX.
SpaceX,
We didn't
correct.
mention that. So
Yeah, that's
SpaceX
pretty
is
big.
building
Shout
it.
out SpaceX.
Yes, please hire me.
What's like the goal of the rocket? Do
The
we
goal of the
just
rocket
dig
is-
it in the air.
The goal of the rocket is large scale to have enough payload to orbit for cheap enough that we can start bringing things to Mars reasonably.
It's basically the cargo ship.
Yes.
Well, I mean, kind of every spaceship is a cargo ship, but this is like
Massive.
its whole job is like its space for payload is like ridiculously
You
large.
can fit like an Airbus
Yes.
in it,
Yeah,
right?
so we have like our 3U payload, right? That's like 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by like 30 centimeters.
You can fit the entire volume, pressurized volume of the International Space Station in the upper stage of one launch of the rocket. So it's big.
Very significant, but just like, but as you mentioned, their previous launch was unsuccessful to reach orbit, but all of their next launch is much more likely. There's a lot of iteration that goes on between the two launches. It's not just like a one chance.
It's not
to
you
get-
picked your design and then that's your design you're going with. It's a we are designing as we fly. It's learn to fly by testing and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And so-
Iterative design.
iterative design.
Try it. If it breaks, fix what broke instead of trying to think forever about what will break.
And just to clarify too, people don't fly on this rocket. Like
Yeah,
this is a dummy payload. They put a bunch of weight in the top of it to simulate what it does. And so there's no risk to the public. It flies over ocean that's all been cleared, so that there aren't vessels in the area. And so it's for being a very, very large, full of lots and lots and lots of fuel, it's basically as safe as you can get with that size of rocket.
And that's the other thing with this rocket is unlike a lot of other rockets that exist that are kind of just one and done, you shoot it up. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll like get the tube back or something, it'll plop in the ocean and then you have to kind of remake the whole thing. This whole rocket is designed to be rapidly reused. So you fly it up and the booster separates from the main and it lands. And then the actual ship itself, it goes up and when it's done, it comes back down and it lands. And all you have to do is refill them with fuel and restack them and
Yeah.
they're like pretty much good to go.
The analogy is historically, imagine you're taking a plane to another country, right? I want to go on a vacation to Paris. Imagine going on that airplane, flying there, and once that airplane lands, you throw it away and build a new one to fly back. That's what historically rockets have done. And so the point of this rocket is to be able to keep the airplane once you're done with it. And that's where the cost savings come into play and why it is as big as it is because the scaling factor of a lot of the physics only makes sense when you're a certain size of rocket. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I'm hungry. So I'm
I
gonna
am
grab
too.
some
Yeah.
pizza.
Yeah.
Someone fill in
Here,
here.
I can fill in, but I'll also
Yeah.
eat pizza.
I mean, I guess I can come back. I'll chew
That's
with my
all right.
mouth closed.
No, this will.
Someone jumped the couch.
Yeah,
Jump
it
the
is
couch?
dinner time.
Yeah, do we have dinner back there? We
Woo!
can pull in the new folks and introduce. I don't know if that's the typical.
Yeah,
way.
according to Matthew Kaufman, there was a near 0% chance of successful re-entry. So,
Oh,
yeah.
my. That's too bad.
Whatever.
Near zero, not impossible. That's what I like to say.
Yep, that's what we like to say.
Not impossible.
Not possible.
Which
I was
is
gonna say we didn't get very far in saying why we joined Bulldog Rocketry. I don't know if anyone else
yeah,
answered
that's
that
true.
question.
Yeah, so I mentioned the technology aspect of things, and I mean, doing the level 1 rockets is a really good experience that I had that got me interested, and also just that's not the 27 hours down to New Mexico to get to meet people, but it is. I don't know. It's 3.5 hours down to
I
the.
think it's like 2 hours.
2
But
hours
it's
to the
still a
city?
decent
2 hours,
amount. Yeah, it's like.
It's a
long
good
enough
experience
for-
to get to meet people and learn a lot more about the team and build connections that are really valuable to me. And it's
Yeah.
it's a great experience for that. So that's the main reason I think.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's funny. I actually joined the team. The short answer is because of him. I mean, I think I probably would have found it either way, but
Yeah.
we lived in the same dorm building last year, and there was just like one day where he was like, "Hey, you should come to this." We're also both computer science majors. So
Yep.
he's like, "You should come to this thing. Bulldog Rocketry is like having this event where we're having a bonfire out at the farm."
That was a good time.
It was a really good time, and I had such a good time, and all the
Yeah.
people there seemed super cool. And so I joined, and I first joined in technology, and then I went to other parts of the team. I ended up going to competition, which was an incredible experience. Like, that's honestly probably one of the coolest things that I've done. Like, being in New Mexico was super cool. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, for sure. I can say why I joined. So I'm a senior, and I joined Bulldog Rocketry when I was a freshman, which was during COVID, which was a very interesting year for Bulldog Rocketry. I don't know if you want me to go into
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
COVID year at all.
That's great.
But yeah, during the fall of 2020 to the spring of 2021, Bulldog Rocketry participated, we met entirely on Discord, and we didn't have in-person general meetings at all.
Do we want to
So-
clarify what Discord is?
Yeah, so Discord is our communication app that we all use to message each other and to give updates, send pictures, and all of that. So it's a big, long group chat basically, with different sections so that you can get messages from people that you're interested in. So there's also a feature on there where you can have a voice chat or a video call. And so we met through that. It was similar to Zoom, which I'm sure a lot of you know about, where we could all go into the Discord chat and, talk to each other about what's going on the team. So there was a lot of things that happened, but we didn't have official meetings in person because of COVID-19, of course. So my freshman year, I didn't really know a lot of people, so I didn't do anything in person. I did some research in the recovery realm a little bit from my dorm room, but yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on that year, unfortunately, because there wasn't the IREC competition for us to go to either. So I joined because I actually heard about Bulldog Rocketry when I was in high school. And I was like, that sounds cool. And then once I went here, and I was like, I need a place to meet people, so I decided to join that, and that was a really good decision. And I definitely don't regret it. It has been a really great experience, and I really only got super involved in the team my sophomore year. So going to things and actually doing physical stuff was really exciting for me at that point. So when I was able to build a level 1 rocket, which I did my sophomore year, and I was able to go to some airframe nose cone layups where what we do there is we take those carbon fiber and fiberglass sheets and we lay them down on a mandrel.
That's just a big aluminum.
A big aluminum tube, yeah, to make those carbon fiber tubes that we have in our rocket. I don't know if you have any around here. But yeah, most of our rocket is made out of carbon fiber, and we make those ourselves by doing that wrapping, paper mache, as we like to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a really good experience for me, and ever since then I've been very involved in the team. Last year I was the Chief Operations Officer, joining the leadership team, and this year I'm the CEO, where I do a lot of management work. So I've learned so much during my time on Bulldog Rocketry, and a lot of it has not even been about rockets. I've learned a lot about how to interact with people and how to lead a team. So it's been really exciting.
Yeah. All right, the other people sitting with us just left, so I guess that's all the.
You weren't even
Why did you join?
I've been in the background the whole time.
I already gave my reason.
Yeah, let's see if
You
the
were in
audience
my
is-
field division, so I didn't
Has the
see
audience
it.
been paying attention? How many slices of pizza has Andrew?
Oh wait, really?
Please give a number.
Yeah, if you
If you have a vote. If you have a vote for Andrew's pizza count, please let us know. Also, you should come a little closer. They can't really see you
I
there.
don't want to sit on the motor tube.
Well,
It seems dangerous.
You can come
it can
down.
take it. It can take force. You know that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
there's
you do
also
go
already
down.
a hole in it, so it might not be a problem.
Yeah.
Is there an active pizza tally?
Not yet. The stream is a little bit behind though.
Oh, let's get that audience engagement, right?
Yeah.
I would bet money that Matt's currently trying to tally up how much every one of you have.
Yeah,
so.
can you rewind the line
He's
stream? or is it live?
calculating the pizza
It's
budget.
like,
No,
Probably.
it's just delayed, so they haven't heard us
Yeah.
say that yet.
Yeah.
yeah, I think they're just hearing you now because this is when we're pointing at you. Yeah. That's gonna be funny. But yeah, why did you join?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm me.
Did you introduce yourself yet?
No, this is
All
the
right.
first time I've been on.
All right, awesome.
Should
Please
I?
introduce yourself.
Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah, well, I finished my pizza. I have a little left.
I'm Cole Esselson. I am the airframe lead. I've been here for 3 years, going on 3.5 now. I've done a lot of things on the team.
Yeah. Yeah, you have.
I'm in like every video that we have on like any build days. I'm there. I am there in some form or fashion. It's a great time.
Yeah, lots of the hands-on stuff.
I love the hands-on stuff. That's why I joined.
Yeah, so currently you're airframe lead, right?
Yep.
So what are you doing with that?
Well, in the past we've done a lot with carbon fiber and whatnot. So this year, however, we got into a little bit of aluminum side of stuff. So we're looking into how we can adjust that and whatnot. And so that's pretty fun. When we deal with the carbon fiber, it's a decent time because we get to lay it up with a tube and like see how it forms and whatnot. So then we get to do certain tests to see how well it'll stay up, like tensile test and compression test to see if the forces on the rocket will do well when we use it to launch the rocket. So it's a great time.
Cool. Yeah. So how did you first hear about the team? What made you decide to join?
It's another COVID story because I was bored out of my mind in my room, and I was doing pep band, and pep band wasn't really doing much, but I knew a trumpet player named Noah who was on the team, and I was like, Noah, I'm really bored. What do I do? And he goes, do you want to join rocketry? And he was wearing a rocketry sweatshirt at the time, so he pointed to the sweatshirt, and then I went, can you message me when you guys are going to do something? He goes, well, we have a nose cone layup. And so the first thing I've ever did on the team was do a nose cone layup, which was really nice. So, and then from there, I've been a part of anything with fibers, dealing with the manufacturing of motor, like motor formula and like the assembly of motor tubes, and anything physical, I have been a part of it. So,
The first thing you ever did for rocketry was a nose cone layup.
yep.
That is awesome.
That is really cool to
Yeah,
see.
so like, that's the cool thing too, is like you can just take people who have no experience and you get to immediately get your hands on these cool things.
Yeah, no, I remember I went to a nose cone layup last year, and like they really do go through the whole process. Like they make sure that, like, at least my experience last year, everybody was involved, even if you had never done it before, which is super fun. So I didn't feel excluded at all, even though I had never done it before. So
Yeah.
for beginners.
All right, I think I've avoided the question long enough for why I'm doing it. So we'll cover that story. So,
Are your parents still listening?
I don't know. That's a good question. So the first time I heard of Bulldog Rocketry, I was actually basically in the Boundary Waters. I was at a lodge that was on a lake that bordered the Boundary Waters, and I was on my phone on the screen porch checking emails. And another family came and said, "Oh, hi, how's it going?" I'm like, "Good, I'm just like registering for classes for college." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, our son is graduating college. Where are you thinking about going?" And I'm like, UMD. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Our son's gonna graduate from UMD. And I was like, "Oh wow, that's so cool. What degree did he get?" And they were like, "Mechanical engineer." And I'm like, "That's what I'm going towards."
It's like, whoa.
Anyway, turns out their name was also Andrew.
Oh my god.
And
Are you sure it's not just you from the future? That
maybe there's some weird time interaction happening. So anyway, they're telling me, "Oh, you have to join this rocket team." And I told them, like, well, I really like rockets. I had been following SpaceX and the rocket's landing. And the Falcon Heavy launch with the Roadster just got my brain thinking about space all the time. And so, yeah, I was like, yes, I'll definitely try this rocketry thing. And they also mentioned that I had to talk to Jose Carrillo and ask him about the B-2 bomber window department store chicken story. I still don't know.
I still haven't asked him that either.
I have not heard
Rundown
about
on that. So that is a to-do before I graduate. But anyway, so
Funny.
it piqued my interest and I started joining, and I loved rockets and I jumped in right away. I joined hybrid because it sounded the most rocket engine-y and it was the most experimental, very hands-on. And so, yeah, ever since it's just been the fact that there's a bunch of really smart people around me, and the fact that I get to do hands-on stuff with rockets and design work, and just the excitement of seeing something work, or the, I don't know if it's like OCD compulsion of like, oh, it didn't work, I gotta make it work again this next time, but the constant improvement and the challenge and the excitement of rockets has always just stuck with me. So That's
Fun stuff.
That's how I got into rocketry.
This bugs
Well,
me
what
more
about
than
you,
it bugs
Jacob?
Other people.
How did you get involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm
Hey,
gonna.
does someone want to take my spot? I'm gonna get some pizza.
Yeah,
Josh, you want to come
I'll
in
hop
here?
in here.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, in like high school, I like was kind of just, as long as I can remember, my parents had me in some sort of robotics program. In like middle school, high school, through then. And then when I got to like college, and I like showed up at UMD, and I was kind of like, I've just been like, in my downtime, been doing some sort of engineering project like all the time. It's just been a constant, having a community of engineering people working to build some sort of thing for fun. And I got to college and I'm like, I don't know what's gonna fill that void. Cause like we have a robotics program here, but it's not like a competitive program as far as I'm aware. And that competition is like really a huge factor for me in terms of like what's driving you to actually like do it, you know? If you wanna like just build something that's fun, and that's still a cool, very cool thing to do. But if you wanna build the best thing you can, a lot of the times it's that driving factor is competition. And that's what Rocketry had going for it over just regular like robotics program, is we have our competition we go to. And so like I knew like that just seemed really, really good to me. Having an actual engineering group that I can be a part of and go to competitions. And then the other thing is like historically for those robotics programs, I did a lot of electrical stuff and I did a lot of work with electronics. But I'm here majoring in chemical engineering for whatever reason. And I was like, okay, I need some happy medium where I can kind of bridge the gap between electronics and chemistry. And rocketry is just really like the perfect example of that. Like our hybrid system, we're working with pressurized gases, really high pressures, but we also need a lot of fancy electronics to control those systems. And it's just like the perfect meld of the two disciplines. And I just like, it was all just too convenient to, like it was just too perfect. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, and that was the other story was I was just kind of walking around. I hadn't fully figured out what I wanted to do yet. I knew I needed some sort of engineering thing, and so I was just walking around doing tabling, and I'd heard in passing about rocketry, and then I show up to the tabling event, and one of when I was a freshman, they were a senior on our robotics team. Was the one sitting there doing the tabling.
Max Benson.
Max Benson.
Yeah.
Shout out Max Benson.
And yeah, I saw his face, and I was like, well, if he ended up at here, it's gotta be the one to do. So that's really what pushed me to sign up, was that, I think.
Yeah, Max was our CEO from 2 years ago, and he was still pretty active on the team last year, but he graduated halfway through the year. And he did so much for the team. Really incredible guy.
Miss you, Max, if you're
Yeah.
if you're listening. But yeah,
If you ever
we
run
still-
across me.
we still check in. I give him a call every now and then, ask him some rocketry questions
Yeah.
a little over my head, and he'll help me out. So.
All right, so we only have about 13 minutes left, which is kind of crazy until the stream is over. So I'd like to go through like how Josh joined, but other than that, I don't know. Maybe start. thinking
Oh,
about-
Josh is-
Yeah,
Yeah,
Josh. Who are you? Yeah, who are you?
I'm Josh. I'm a sophomore. I joined last year. I mainly spent all my time in like the airframe section. This year I am the farm dev lead, which is basically just all the development of the farm that we have. We have an area that's set aside for us that's off campus, provided by the university. So.
Exciting.
Yeah.
How'd you first get involved?
Well, I will say I have a pretty similar backstory to you, Jacob. I started out in robotics. I had about 5 years of robotics experience there, and I ended with being a build team lead over there. I basically helped and I welded together. We had a A-frame base that we used for one of the years, and
Now we're getting not only into rocketry terminology,
yeah,
robotics terminology.
whole different thing. But anyway, for rocketry, freshman year here, I was just chugging with classes and had a lot of extra free time. So I thought, hey, rocketry sounds fun. That's kind of where I want to go. So I came to one of the general meetings. I joined the airframe stuff, met Cole and Ben and all the people there, and I had a lot of fun and found a good home. So
Sweet.
yeah.
All
We sit in
right.
silence. What's everyone's favorite part?
Favorite part of like the rocket or
Just
rocketry?
everything.
Oh my god,
Rocket
people!
rocketry.
What's your favorite thing in
I
general?
will say the trip down to New Mexico, well, it is stressful and exhausting in a lot of ways. Both
Exhausting.
years I've went one launching a rocket and one not launching a rocket, unfortunately. Both have been amazing experiences. It's basically like it is a work vacation where you're getting to do this thing you really enjoy and travel super far and you're in a completely different environment, but you're also having fun. When we're down there, it's not all rockets, right? At the end of the week, if we launch in time, we get some time in New Mexico to do fun New Mexico things. And so last year, we went rock climbing or bouldering.
Yes. Yeah, bouldering. That
Out
was
in the
probably one of the
desert.
coolest
Unreal boulders.
experiences.
And we got to watch a desert sunset from basically the side of a mountain.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
We got a drone overhead. We've got
Yeah, the
footage.
walk back was a
So-
little
so
interesting in the dark.
rattlesnake?
Yeah, no. So it's all of these things that you wouldn't necessarily associate with rocketry, but still these amazing experiences you get to do.
They're like life experiences.
Life
They
experience.
really are,
That's
yeah.
that's the favorite part to me is all of these things that I would never have done otherwise.
Yeah.
Without
No,
being.
I don't know if I would have ever gone to New Mexico if it weren't for rocketry.
Yeah, I
like
probably wouldn't have
don't-
either.
Yeah, like I don't know if that would have ever been on my radar, but it was so beautiful and so incredible.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think the time down to New Mexico is something that's definitely worth it for everyone, and I think I highly recommend everyone on our team should go because I think it's an amazing experience, both in seeing your rocket launch, like your baby going up in the air, seeing how that goes.
For better or worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse, it's an amazing experience. But also just like the time that you're there, the relationships that you get to make, it's a really good time. And I really enjoyed the car ride too because I love car rides.
Really?
It's
After a certain point,
the ride
it was
back
rough.
sometimes.
Ian, I feel like there's something to
Very-
say here. Would you like to come in?
It is tough because we do need to drive, of course, because like we can't really exactly bring a rocket motor on a commercial air flight.
Not yet. Anyway. If anyone wants to talk to the FAA and get clearance for that, we.
But
would be
considering
more
we're coming
grateful.
from Duluth, Minnesota to Las Cruces, New Mexico, it's about a 27-hour car ride.
Including stops. Yes.
Yeah, and then 27 hours.
Depends on who's driving. Sometimes.
I don't know.
I have my own personal experience where it was a 30 to 32 hour drive because I was
Really?
hauling the trailer.
Yeah, it's long.
I don't know. I like it when the trip, like, even if a trip kind of sucks, like, if there's elements where you go, this sucks. I have fun when it sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the 30 hour, like, we were driving in a convoy I went 2 years ago. We were driving in a convoy. Everyone's so sleep deprived trying to drive, but you're just going through. And I remember just at one point, Jose, our advisor, was driving the truck, and I went, Jose, I'm falling asleep. Can you tell me a story? And the man lays out,
Oh, he
just
has
talks
the
to
best
me about
stories.
life stories. I remember staying up almost every day until we launched that rocket until 3 a.m., getting 4 hours of sleep, waking up and doing the same thing over again. So I lived on
I don't know if I've ever
board
been as
solid
sleep deprived as I was that week.
Oh,
I wouldn't even
just-
launch when I went.
It is the greatest time. And then
Yeah.
I remember my favorite, actually, I have a favorite story about it, is that I had to drive, we had to take the truck that we had and drive out to bring a ladder to the team that was putting the rocket on the stand. And I remember I felt like, I just felt like a returning hero when I drove that truck back with like Max and the guys all in the back of the truck because everyone just cheered.
Yeah.
I know they were cheering for them, not for me, but I felt like the hero driving the back.
Yeah, it's always amazing. And my goal again this year as chief engineer organizationally, I'd like it to where maybe we could get a lot more sleep this year because the rocket is just.
Oh
ready
yeah,
to
that's
go.
definitely my goal too.
Yeah,
Like that,
So-
even then, like car ride there and back.
Yeah.
You get sleep deprived.
So
and
there will be plenty of times to be sleep deprived after the rocket has been launched. But
I'm going to be sleep deprived nonetheless, just to remember the good old days of the last time I was down
Now the
there.
car ride will do that for you.
I don't want to stay up until 3 a.m. anyway.
But yes, organization and just like the goal for this year is just perfect execution of everything's ready where it needs to go. Get it out there, launch
She
it.
gonna be ready.
She gonna be ready. We still have to name the rocket, by the way. So if anyone has any suggestions,
Oh yeah,
we'll take them.
feel free
Yeah.
to put them in the chat, and we will consider them.
Bruce?
Paul.
Paul.
That's the name of my turkey, dude. You can't take Paul's name.
Oh shoot. Paul's taken.
Yeah, I would say like
Eva's
What?
turkey's named Paul. We can't do it.
yeah. One of my favorite things about this team too, if we're going on experiences, is I had a lot of experiences last year where they were late nights, just getting stuff done. But there is something about doing that with other people that you're all just so motivated to get it done, and you all care about it, and you're putting so much work into it.
It feels
That
so
it's
good.
so satisfying and so gratifying to just feel like you've done something that is like meaningful, and that is something that I haven't really gotten from a different, like any other organization I've been in really. And it is like really, I don't know,
Yeah.
I really like it.
All right. So the man behind the camera doesn't get nearly enough attention, and I have a meeting to
He
get
did
to.
not want to be.
I have an engineering meeting I need to go to. So Ian Franz is going to take a seat here.
I'm going to be late to that meeting, by the way.
That's okay. Everybody, this is Ian. He's been behind the camera the whole time. He is our avionics lead.
I don't think you want
He pretends to be shy, but really he's a big, outgoing, happy, go-lucky guy. So yeah, Ian, take it away.
I'm Ian. I'm the avionics lead and social media deputy. And I put together this thing and hopefully...
Yeah, no, this live stream would not be nearly as nice without him. I don't even know how I would begin to set this up. So
Ian's
thank
our
you,
camera
Ian.
guy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ian is great.
How did you join the team?
A friend talked me into it.
Yeah?
Long story short,
That's pretty typical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
haven't,
gotta
yeah.
get more details here. Come on.
I came in a bit late last year, and then the only reason I went to an avionics meeting is because I was already on campus. I didn't want to make an extra drive, but it was after a general meeting, so I just kind of went and enjoyed it, and then I applied to be the lead of it, and then they gave it to me.
That was gifted.
And he's been killing it.
Oh, yeah. And super helpful again with like all the social media stuff, so.
Yeah, what are you guys doing this weekend?
Ooh, oh, that's...
Yeah, no, YouTube. Well, I guess, no, YouTube. Sorry.
Yeah, what is this
So we have a
team?
small scale.
With hybrid and avionics specifically.
everywhere.
We have a small scale test this weekend. So the normal rocket is big, to say the least. So because they cost a lot of money, we like to test on a smaller scale to collect data and do proof of concept before we do it on a larger scale. So this weekend we're going to be, we've already poured the grains, so we mixed up the fuel and then we cast it into the grains, and then this weekend we're gonna take those grains and put them onto a stand that we can then fire and collect the data from, and that data collection is what these guys do.
So yeah, with small scale, things work a lot differently than with the full scale. So the full scale rocket, solid fuel. I never really did talk about the difference between hybrid and solid.
Take a seat.
Yeah, no, I want to stand here and eat my wing, but I'm.
I will say we just got another $10 donation, so thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
What are we gonna buy with that?
Yeah.
No.
Nano?
Yeah.
It's a nano.
Small pizza.
So
Thank you for the nano.
I want to talk a little bit more about what hybrid is, and then that'll lead in to what the small scale fire is this weekend. But hybrid, basically, instead of just having solid, like a solid hunk of flammable material, like you would picture rocket fuel being. You know, if you had rocket fuel in the county and you set it on fire, well, the whole thing's gonna go on fire. You know, that makes sense. That's because inside of the fuel there is oxidizer and fuel. So if you think of like burning wood, you know, it needs to happen in the air because the air is the oxidizer, the wood is the fuel. But with the solid rocket, you kind of put the two together. With the hybrid rocket, it works more like the wood in the air. The wood on its own, if you don't have the air around, it's not really going to burn. It's not super flammable. But once you mix in an oxidizer from like a separate liquid tank, so we use a solid fuel and a liquid oxidizer, they stay separate until we mix them. So the fuels we get to use because we do it this way are things you wouldn't necessarily think of as rocket fuel, like wax. You ever burned a candle? You've used wax as fuel, but it's never really produced much thrust, I'm assuming. Because there wasn't enough oxygen and it wasn't under pressure. But if you burn wax in a specific way by adding the oxidizer as a liquid, you can burn wax to make to use as rocket fuel. And that's kind of what hybrid is. And so we have a stand that was made a while ago to test these hybrid rockets specifically. And this is a brand new type of rocket for our team. So the stand we use to test them is full of all sorts of different sensors and different ways to collect data and different ways to control it. And so the system is actually significantly more complicated than just a regular rocket. Because with a regular rocket, once you set it on fire, it's going to burn all the way until it's done. You cannot turn off a solid rocket. Well, there might be ways, but like the ones we make, we can't turn them off. Once you light it, it's going. But with the hybrid rockets, you can stop pumping in your oxidizer into the fuel, and it will stop burning. And so we have to incorporate like a way to turn it off and all that. And so we have this really complicated like controls system and this board that kind of reads a bunch of different data and can figure out whether or not to turn it off, and it communicates wirelessly to the stand. And the stand kind of is a small scale rocket pointed like that way, or like out instead of up when we do the full scale.
Or down.
Or down.
Would be where
ours goes that way. We don't test going down, but if you are launching, you go down.
Yeah.
There
you go. There you go.
Yeah. But what was I saying? Yes. So we've figured out we don't have to just use the stand for hybrid fuel. We can put solid fuel in there and cap the end where the oxidizer goes in, and it just works the same way. But because we have a lot more sensors on it, we can get a lot of data from these tests that we do on the small scale. And that's kind of one of the things that hybrid did.
Oh, you have props up here.
I do have props. I have the controls board. I'm gonna take that out of there. It's kind of a mess.
Oh. Okay. So,
But hybrid, we have a lot of like valves and stuff.
So
like these are valves. It's like a valve.
So it's great showing these things off. I will say we are past 6 p.m. We can continue to chat, but I just want to say, do you want to keep going? All right.
Yeah. So this.
But anyway, we're doing a small scale test, and hybrid's part in it is like it was our stand, and we do data collection.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
Why is it important for us to have data on our rocket fuel?
Well, that's the difference between just blowing stuff up and science. We write it down.
That was like a famous quote, but like weirdly mixed up.
Yeah.
It needs to go on the quotes channel.
Because if we don't get data, any test you do that you don't get data on is not a test. It's just destruction of property.
Well, like
our property. And like we have the right to do so, but it's not very beneficial to anything to just set some fuel on fire other than to watch the flames. So we need to collect data so that it's not just looking at fire. Also, the data is useful. It's not just we're collecting data to collect data to say that. Why is the data useful? That's the question you're asking.
Right.
Great. It's getting too late, and
So being able to collect data from multiple tests can verify that your rocket is going to perform the way you expect it to.
Right.
So between any two given times that you cast the motor grains, there might be slightly more air mixed into one mixture, or it might have some voids in it, or it might just not be mixed entirely well. Or there could just be some test-to-test variability, regardless, from other confounding factors. So having multiple tests allows you to figure out what that is and also be able to then characterize it and get a better idea of what it's going to do in a different scenario than the one that you might be testing it in.
Well, kind of the purpose of tests in general too is if you're building a rocket that you're trying to get to some altitude, say 30,000 feet, and you have no idea what the motor you're putting it's going to do, it's an impossible. You have to know something about how powerful is the motor.
The test will tell you
to
what
figure
it's
out how high it's going to go.
Yeah.
That's what the test is for. So basically, what a test, the kind of data we're looking at is we're trying to see how much force the rocket produced, and that's called thrust. And we measure that force by basically like the same way you would measure your force if you want to know how much you weighed. You'd step on a scale, and it tells you the force that you produce by gravity pushing down on the ground. So the same exact sensor that is used in a scale, we have just a larger, more strong, durable version. It's called a load cell. And we have that sideways, and we push up against it. And it's kind of like standing on a scale. And we figure out that force. That tells us our thrust. That's super helpful to know. But there's also like, well, the motor we have is like a pressure vessel inside these really high pressure hot gases that are burning. And we need to know that the thing that those gases are in can handle that pressure. Otherwise it might like burst or break. And so you need to test to see, well, what pressures are actually happening in the tube. And make sure that the tube that they're in can withstand those pressures. So you need to compare a real value with a theoretical value, and that's how you get a safety factor.
Right. So one big thing is you want to make sure that the rocket will be okay and it'll survive whatever you're trying to do to it. That it will do what you expect it to. But also part of competition is that we simulate our rocket as well. So currently we use an open source rocket simulator called Open Rocket, and we've also started using RasAero, which is a little bit more high tech. So those simulations are required, but they're also very useful for telling us what to expect with our rocket. And the other thing is that they're not always 100% right, especially if we put in information that we're not necessarily sure about because we haven't tested it. So we need to test our rocket to make sure that those simulations actually produce what we think they're going to, so that they are accurate when we submit them with our competition application and final technical report at the end of the year.
Yeah, so this weekend we've got a small scale test, which is collecting data for that.
Yes.
The other parts of our team right now, the engineering department, they've got a meeting going on right now actually, back on campus, where they're finishing up some of the other design work that data will be able to help validate. So we use SolidWorks, which is a common design software for being able to figure out what it might look like before you actually go and build it. And through this, we're able to make sure parts are going to fit together properly, as well as perform the way we expect them to. So you can do some basic testing in there to calculate forces and make sure that things aren't going to break. We use some other tools, like Gwen mentioned, we use Open Rocket for that as well. And those are a couple tools that they're using to make sure we can build it and it'll perform how we expect it to.
Do we have any questions in chat to kind of, because we are kind of past
That's true, we can
the
wrap it.
reservation time of the space. So probably
Okay.
gotta wrap this up pretty quick here,
Okay.
pretty soon.
Quick.
Are we going to say one last goodbye?
Yeah, I
And
think
thank
one
all
last
of our
goodbye.
Does anyone
So
have
my
any
computer's
quick
dead.
questions?
Oh,
That's-
yes. Any,
So
are we
I
on
want
all
to
of the
say,
streams? Do we made sure we got it?
yeah,
Check
I want to
everything?
say
Okay, sick.
again to everyone, thank you so much for everybody that donated and
Yeah.
just viewed the live stream. We really appreciate everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah.
It's a really fun experience for us too.
Yeah, this is
and
fun.
It allows us to do what we do every day. So thank you.
Yeah, and a big thank you to Ian Friends again for setting up the whole live stream.
Yep. And Jacob for the space that we're using right now.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
built this
Yeah.
room with my own 2 hands.
Not quite, but
Yeah, thank
kind
you
of.
so much to everyone. We are very grateful
Oh, yeah, how much
in
were you?
honor of Thanksgiving coming up.
I can hear that.
We are very thankful for everything that we have. Thankful for this team. Thankful for you guys all
My
for helping
eyesight
us
is
out.
not that good, Rachel.
So thank you so
All
much.
right. So I would like to say one final thing. We have raised $1,820 so far,
Ooh, thank
which
you
is
so much.
so much money. That is genuinely so incredible. So
That's-
thank you to everyone that
How many
donated.
feet of aluminum tube?
A lot.
That's so
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
6 nozzles or more.
Do you realize how much AP you can buy with this?
How much?
At
How
least
many pounds?
almost 200 pounds.
Yeah, no, 200 pounds. Yeah.
And that might just be how much we're getting.
Can anyone make that 201?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
How much does a pound of AP cost?
It depends on where you source it from, and
What
I don't know.
micron?
And what micron?
Yeah, what size it is. There's a lot of factors. I don't know how much of that is regulated by
Oh, this
ITAR
is a-
though.
Yeah,
so,
we can go on forever.
Okay,
I think as
anyways.
you noticed, we love talking about rocketry. But again, thank you so much. It's been really incredible.
Yeah,
Long
have a
story
good
short,
rest
we
of
are
your
very
night.
grateful. Yes. Have a great rest of your night.
With more than 100 students participating in the club, the Bulldog Rocketry team is bigger and better than ever with a bright future on the horizon.
This way again. Like, I just need like anything. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Ready? Good.
UMD takes part in a national college rocket competition every June in New Mexico.
In the world of rocket motor tests, this was a good test.
The Bulldog Rocketry team is always pushing themselves to the limit.
We are trying to prepare ourselves to do a launch that goes to 100,000 feet. And that 100,000 foot shot is actually a test in itself so that we can eventually, hopefully in 6 or 7 years, be able to shoot to the edge of space.